Okay, so let's get started with 와, 과, noun이랑, and 하고. So this is a grammar form that's used to connect nouns with and. So in Korean, when you're connecting nouns with and, for example, cheese and wine, or cats and dogs, things like that, you have a specific grammar form that you use to connect nouns. If you're connecting verbs, you actually use a different grammar form. So depending on the sort of words you're using will choose what grammar form you use. If you're using nouns, you use one of these grammar forms. I'm going to explain all three of them, explain how to use them and how they are different. Okay, first of all, let's look at 와, 와, 과. So, 와 and 과 are two sides of the same particle. They mean the same thing. So there's no difference in meaning between them. The difference is, if the noun ends in a vowel sound, you attach 와. Now this might be different than what you expect. I think this is the only grammar form I can think of where you actually stack vowels and you stack the consonants. Usually in every other grammar form in Korean, you usually alternate, right? If it ends on a consonant, you start with a vowel and vice versa. This one is, for some reason, the opposite of that. So if your noun ends in a vowel, you attach 와. So, for example, 영화 is movie. So if you're saying 영화 와 is movie and. 영화 와 popcorn, movie and popcorn, for example. Another example, 엄마. 엄마 is mom or mum or mother, I suppose. So it becomes 엄마와, mom and. 엄마와 아빠, mom and dad, for example. Versus, if the noun ends in a consonant sound, you attach 과. So, 책, 과, a book and 책과 영화, a book and a movie. 음식 becomes 음식과, food and 음식과 음료, food and drink, for example. So let's look at some sentences. We have here, 김치와 밥을 먹어요. I eat kimchi and rice. Kimchi ends on a vowel sound. Kimchi. 와. Pap is rice or meal, actually. Pap can be used to talk just a general meal, but literally it means rice. So 김치와 밥을 먹어요 means I or some subject eats kimchi and rice. 영화와 드라마를 봐요. I watch movies and dramas. And what about this last one? Okay, so this is 책과 만화를 읽어요. Does anyone know what this means in English? We have 책, which we've used before, which means a book. Now we have this word 만화. This might be a new vocab word for you. And then we have 읽어요. This book is Conversational Korean Grammar, and it is available on Amazon. Hey, Once Upon a Kiwi, perfect, yeah. I read books and comics. Manhwa is the Korean way of saying manga, so comic books, anime, that sort of stuff. So I read books and manga, or I read books and comics. Okay, so now let's look at 이랑. So this one has two forms as well. If the noun ends in a vowel, you attach 랑. So, 영화랑, 엄마랑. And if it ends on a consonant, you attach 이랑. So 책 becomes 책이랑, and 음식 becomes 음식이랑. So very similar meaning to the ones up here, just a slightly different conjugation. And the difference between these two sets of particles is that 와, 과 is slightly more bookish, slightly more formal, it's more common in writing. And 랑, 이랑 is more casual, it's more common in speaking. Now, it's not a firm rule. You can use either of these in speaking, or you can either of these be romanticized? You mean romanicized? Yeah, so this is wa. I'm not sure actually. Wa, qua, and this is rang, rang. You know, I'm not actually sure how to romanize these things. I do encourage you to, as quickly as you can, get used to reading the Korean alphabet. Because I don't know if this is a good approximation of the Korean or not. But yeah, so this is slightly more formal, this is slightly more casual. So an example sentence using 랑 is 김치랑 밥을 먹어요. I eat kimchi and rice. Exactly the same meaning, just a slightly different grammar form is being used. I know Hangul is really, when you're first starting out, it's an entirely new system and it's very unfamiliar, but the longer you spend with it, the easier it will get. This is Conversational Korean Grammar. And the third way you can attach nouns together with and is 하고. And 하고 is kind of the easiest one to use because whatever the word is, it doesn't change at all. It's always just 하고. So whether it ends on a vowel or a consonant, you attach 하고. 영화 하고 and 음식 하고. A movie and or food and. So a lot of learners when they're starting out will just always use 하고, and that's fine. I started out doing that as well because it's the easiest one to use, and it's also can be used commonly in both writing or speaking. There's no strong literary preference. So you can just use 하고, although it's good to be able to recognize all three of them because native Korean speakers will use all three depending on their preference and circumstances. And I have been learning Korean for about 5 years to answer that question before. Okay, so sentences using 하고, 김치하고 밥을 먹어요. 영화하고 드라마를 봐요. And 책하고 만화를 읽어요. These are all the same example sentences, just written 3 different ways. Okay, so if you want to connect action verbs, there is a way that you can do it using these particles. These particles are only for connecting nouns, right? But we know how to turn verbs into nouns because we learnt 능것. In a previous grammar form, previous lesson, we learnt about 능것, that it creates nominalization, which turns verbs into nouns. So, if you want to connect action verbs with one of these particles, you can do it if you attach 능것 to the verb. So if you want to refresh on 능것, be sure to check that out online. The first page, sure. This is the first page that we went through, looking at 과 and 랑, and this is Conversational Korean Grammar. Okay, so 능것, what you do is you take the verb and you attach 능것 to the verb, and then you can attach 과 or 이랑 or 하고 to the end after that. And that becomes cooking and or eating and. So 요리하다 is the verb to cook. And when you make 요리하는 것, it's cooking. And then you can attach these particles at the end because 요리하는 것 is a noun. It is the noun form of the verb 요리하다. So let's look at some examples. 요리하는 것과 먹는 것을 좋아해요. This means I like cooking and eating. Where did I get this book from? I helped write it. So it came from my brain and other people's brains as well. 요리하는 것과, I mean, it's from Amazon, ultimately as well. 요리하는 것 is cooking. 먹는 것 is eating. So 요리하는 것과, that's our and. Cooking and eating 을 좋아해요. Thank you. I like cooking and eating. We are a female-owned business, so the whole company is owned by women. So, yay. Hey, thank you. I'm happy you bought the book. The next example here uses 공부하는 거랑 운동하는 게 재미있어요. Now, this uses the 랑이랑 one to join these things together. Remember that 랑이랑 is the slightly more casual version, so it's also more natural to use the slightly more casual version of 는것. So 는것, when it's used in spoken language, it's commonly shortened to 는거, 는걸, or 는게, depending on the particle. So because we're using 랑, it's more natural to also use 는게 and 는거. So 공부하는 거랑 운동하는 게 재미있어요. Studying and exercising is fun. 공부하는 거 is studying, and 운동하는 게 is 공부하는 거 is studying, 운동하는 게 is exercising, and 재미있어요 is to be fun. Now, there's another way to join action verbs with and that's to use a different grammar form as well. This is just to give you options. You have options for how you want to phrase your sentences. Just depends on what you want to do. 밥 먹었어요? 아직이요? Not yet. Okay. But yes, I am well. Okay, so what's the difference between these two forms? Just a recap. We have 과, which is slightly more used in writing and formal speech. 랑이랑, which is more used in casual language. And we have 하고, which is used pretty indiscriminately in both. So it's up to you which one you want to use. You can use any of these, the ones you want. This is Conversational Korean Grammar. Okay, now there's another important way that these particles are used, and it's to talk about doing things with other people. So, if you want to talk about doing things with other people, you can attach one of these particles to the person noun. It is available on Amazon. And that means to do something with that person. So, for example, 아빠가 엄마와 요리해요. So here we have the 와, 과 particle used to mean and. 아빠 is dad and 엄마 is mom. So mom and dad cook together. Or my dad cooks with my mom. 엄마와 with my mom, my dad cooks. 엄마와 Yep. Okay. And then the next one here, 저랑 제 친구가 한국어를 공부해요. In the Philippines, you can try the Book Depository. It's a different website that ships worldwide, or you can get a PDF on our website. Okay, so this one, 저 is me, 저랑, so me with or with me. 제 친구가, my friend, 한국어를 공부해요. My friend studies Korean with me. With me, my friend studies Korean. This is the book, Conversational Korean Grammar. And I'll pause so you can take a screenshot if you would like. And yes, the name of the book is written here, but I know that not everyone sees that or realize that that's what this is. Okay. And the last one here, we have 한국 사람하고 말하고 싶어요. So we have 하고 used here. So we've got first the 와, then the 랑이랑, and now we've used 하고. 한국 사람하고. 한국 사람 is a Korean person or just a Korean. So 한국 사람하고 말하고 싶어요. 말하다 is to speak. And 고 싶다 we learned in the previous live stream. That means to want to do something. It's okay. I don't mind. So 한국 사람하고 말하고 싶어요. I want to talk with a Korean person or with a Korean. 말하고 싶어요. I want to speak. I want to talk. Okay. And now, in sentences that use these sorts of things, doing things with other people, it's very common to add 같이 or 함께. These mean together. So, 같이 and 함께 are commonly used in sentences like this. For example, 엄마와 아빠가 함께 요리해요. Thank you. My mom and dad cook together. It's basically the same meaning as here. We've just added together from this 함께. 엄마와 아빠가 함께 요리해요. My mom and dad cook together. 제 친구랑 같이 제가 제 친구랑 같이 한국어를 공부해요. My friend and I study Korean together. And 한국 사람하고 같이 말하고 싶어요. I want to talk together with a Korean person. Okay, if you want to talk about multiple people, you can use the 들 plural marker. So 친구들 is with friends, multiple friends, for example. And if you're talking about more than one thing, if you want to talk about more than one noun, or more than two nouns, for example, there's a couple different ways you can do this. So you have the option to use the particle on both nouns, or you can use it on just the first noun. These are equivalent expressions. 치즈랑 빵이랑 먹어요 means I eat cheese and bread. You can have both particles 비랑이랑, or you can say 치즈랑 빵을 먹어요. This is just using the object particle instead of using to and particles. You can use either of these expressions. Same with this one. You can say 치즈하고 빵하고 먹어요. I eat cheese and bread. Or 치즈하고 빵을 먹어요. I eat cheese and bread. Now, there is a tricky little thing that technically you are not supposed to stack two 화과s in the same sentence. So if you're using 화과, technically the second one should be the particle. Or you can say 치즈와 빵 같이 먹어요, like I eat cheese with my bread. I feel like this is kind of a nitpicky rule. I feel like you could probably say this, and only like the really serious grammar Nazis or grammar people that are very strong about grammar in Korean will mark you down for this. But it is technically the rule. So feel free to not remember this if you want. I don't think it's a big deal, but technically that's a thing. Also, you shouldn't mix multiple different particles in the same sentence. This is a bit awkward. So like 치즈와 포도랑 빵하고 먹어요. You've used the 와과 here, you've used the 랑이랑 here, and you've used the 하고 here. And it makes the sentence a bit strange. People will understand you, but you should probably stick to one type of particle in your sentence. Okay. So that is 과, this grammar form here. And that brings us to the end of that.